Good morning. I want a lot of sewing return for my efforts, particularly when time is tight. So I'm going to show you this outfit that I put together the other day, and I'll tell you about it, and I'm going to show you how I made the top. You would start with Simplicity 8656 and McCall's 6966. We have an oversized top. Pick a knit, any knit. Finish the neckline with woven purchased bias binding. Make the sleeves any length you want. Make the overall length any length you want. You get a cute cropped top and you get a skirt that couldn't be easier. I didn't put the waistband on the skirt. I simply attached elastic, folded it down once and secured it, and I've got an outfit ready to go. I used sweater knit for my top in a brick ribbed, I believe it's a polyester rayon blend. It's very soft, and I actually finished the hem with that bias binding that I did around the neckline. I did that because this is a light sweater knit, and I didn't want it to stick to things. I wanted it to have a little bit of structure down here at the hem. So that's another wonderful use for purchased bias binding. I'm a big fan of it, as you know. So I'll show you the outfit, and I'll show you another style option, and then I'll show you how I made the top. Hang on. Okay, so here is my outfit. I have a little cropped top. I have a skirt that's fairly full. The skirt is knit. I have paired my boots with light colored stockings, and I put my skirt exactly the length I wanted it. Same with my top. I wanted it cropped, although not too short. And this outfit comes together in no time. So I'm gonna go change clothes. I'm going to show you another way I can wear my top. I love this top. I think I'm gonna make a whole bunch, and I'll show you how I did it. Stay with me, okay? All right, now we're going a little bit more casual. I love putting this top over a longer tank, throwing on a pair of jeans, pair of clogs, and you have got a very easy, very comfortable, casual outfit. So, pick a knit, let's cut this out, and I've got good news. This top only takes one pattern piece. Woo! Let's do it. All right, we are going to use Simplicity 8656. I've chosen today a beautiful, well, what is that color? Kind of like caramel brown. I'm going to do a contrasting blue thread. I love brown and blue together, and that may show up a little bit better for when I'm showing you some of the techniques. Let me come over here and grab our pattern piece. One piece. So, take out your piece, and I just kind of rough cut it around the size that I want to use. I left it at extra large for the sleeve length. And then I cut, I believe, on the medium line. Here, under the bust, medium line. And then up here at the shoulders, I cut on the small line. And you can do that. You can kind of mix and match with these multi-size patterns. These arrows, of course, mean that that part of the pattern piece will be placed on your fold. I'm going to iron my pattern piece. I'm gonna iron my fabric, and then I'm gonna cut out with you. I know you know how to iron pattern pieces, but we're just gonna walk through this. I put my iron up pretty hot, lay out the pattern piece, and give it a nice press. We want all the little corners pressed neatly, and just go over it until your pattern piece looks good. Getting it folded here, filming one-handed. But this is an important step that you don't want to skip. Same thing with ironing your fabric. Now, we're using knits. If your knit has anything synthetic in it, any polyester, you are going to want to use a pressing cloth. I need to give a shout out to one of my sweet viewers. She sent me organza, silk organza pressing cloths from Paris. And I cannot tell you how, she sent me 2. I can't tell you how much I love them. You can see right through them. They are beautiful. They protect your fabric. And this is just, I love these so much. I use them every time I sew. So you'll want to protect your knit fabric if it has anything synthetic in it, and if it's stretchy, it has spandex in it. So just be on the safe side and get a pressing cloth. If you don't have silk organza, you can use, I used to use handkerchiefs from Walmart. Any light fabric that will protect your knit from the heat is advisable. I just realized there's a cobweb in my chandelier. So if that gets in the picture, please excuse. Found my funky lucite glasses. Now, before we get into this, I want to say, if you are a beginner sewer, I am so proud of you. I am so thrilled that you have decided to make some of your own clothes and you're starting on a journey. I know the word journey is kind of hackneyed, but you are embarking on a journey that you're going to love. I predict that you will love it because even though there will be some duds and trials, you know, there are all through sewing, no matter how long you've been sewing. But you get past those and you get some successes under your belt and you just, woo, you take off because now you're designing your own clothes. You're choosing the fabrics, you're choosing the colors, you're deciding on the style that best suits you. So I want to give you props for getting into sewing. All right, my fabric, I am discovering, has some kind of odd marks on it. It almost looks like watermarks. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to decide that it is an eclectic fabric and that is how it is supposed to look. So let's see what we're doing down here. This is a very slinky knit, and they can be hard as heck to lay out on your table and get smooth. I often find that when you place the pattern piece on the knit, you can smooth it out and the pattern piece will help you. So try to get all the main wrinkles out. Put your piece on and smooth it out. Make sure that your arrows are right on your fold and pin that side first. We want to anchor the side that is placed on the fold all the way down. And when we get to the hem, I'm going to show you that I want my top a little bit longer than the way it has been drafted. And I like where the one I'm wearing falls on me, so I'm going to add 2 inches to the length. All right, this is not a difficult alteration to make because you can see that the bottom of my shirt has a straight hem. I'm going to take here one of my wonderful sewing tools. You need rulers like this. And I would like my top to be 2 inches longer. So I'm going to place one line on the original hem, 2 inches down, and draw a new line. Okay, this is a fabric marking pen. You can get these anywhere they sell fabric. Now I have a new line to cut, and I can just fill it right in here over on the side so that it meets my cutting line. And there you go. My top is now going to be 2 inches longer than the original. So we can finish pinning. I pin, you might use weights. That's just fine, whatever you prefer. Oops, I got to remember I got to pin it down here though, because I've made it longer. Make it a little easier to cut. And we'll just keep pinning around the edges of our pattern piece. And then we're going to cut it out. All right. We're going to cut one on the fold for the front. Then I'll move it down here and cut one on the fold for the back. The sleeves in this pattern are cut on, sometimes they're referred to as grown on, or all in one. Take your pick. All right, I like to make very pronounced notches. That's one of my things. I cut them out. However, I have taken to just cutting little snips for knit necklines. I don't cut out those little markings. I don't make the big notches for knit necklines anymore. All right, now I like to cut with that pattern tissue to the right of my scissors. So in order to turn this easily, I just cut out around it. Now I can manipulate it to always make sure that that pattern piece is to the right of my scissors. That's just a preference. I feel like I get a little bit more precision with that. So this takes almost no time to cut out. We're going to cut all the way down to my new hemline, which is 2 inches longer. And here we go. I love cutting. I love it. All right, I'm going to unpin this, repin it down here, and cut another piece for my front. Oh yeah, this is a good angle, isn't it? Here's the table. I like to sew with my chin at table height. No, I'm gonna try and get some better shots in this video. Try. But I want to suggest to you, take a little sample leftover of your fabric and run it through your machine, okay, to make sure that you have a stitch you like. I'm using a ballpoint needle, and I just want to make sure that it looks good, the tension's right on before I start sewing on my garment. So take a sample, run it through, and see how you like it, okay? Now I know you can't really see what I'm stitching, but I like to put my regular seam stitch length on a 3, and I'm going to take this through and just make sure that the stitch looks good. So there is my contrasting blue thread, and it looks fine on the front, looks good on the back. I'm ready to sew my garment. Okay, now remember, this is the major bang for your buck project. It's Christmas time. I don't have a lot of time to devote to sewing. In fact, I think I'm in full-blown Christmas denial. And I need to remedy that. So take off your tissue paper, and the first step with this pattern is to stay stitch. They want you to stabilize the neckline. So if I open my piece up, there's my neckline up there, okay? And I'm gonna stay stitch that. I come in from one shoulder and stop in the middle. I come in from the other shoulder and stop in the middle. And I'm only gonna do it about 1/4 inch from the edge on a regular stitch length. Okay, once you have your stay stitching in at the neck, we are gonna pin our pieces together, right sides together, and we will make sure that our notches up here over the shoulder match. Okay, and pin. Our neighbors are having work done on their house. I don't know if you can hear that tile saw going out front, but it's a little bit loud. Okay, we're gonna sew each shoulder seam, and they're long because they include the sleeve. So get those pinned up, making sure that your little notches match. So because mine are so big, I can see them quite easily, and I've got a good match. Let's take it to the machine and stitch it up. All right, before we start sewing, we want our edges completely even. See that at the corner? You want those edges even. Place them under the machine at the 5/8 inch mark and begin to sew your stitch. I like to take a back stitch right at the beginning, and then we're going to sew. Now, I'm a little bit laissez-faire about sewing over pins. I will try to remove them as I go, since that is the prudent thing to do. Making sure your edges are even. This is just a short and straight seam over each shoulder. So here we go. And when we come to the end, we want to make sure that our fabrics line up, which is easy to do with a knit. You can just kind of give it a pull. Sometimes I get my handy dandy tweezers out just because I want those pieces of fabric to end up at the same point. At the end, give a back stitch, and you have made your shoulder seam. I will now take mine to the serger and serge that off. Follow me over. If you don't have a serger, you don't need to do this. Your knit edges on that seam are not going to fray. It's personal preference for me to just kind of shear them off with my serger. So here we go. It's a noisy little thing. It's noisy, but boy, do I love it. There is our seam done. Some people don't even use the sewing machine and they construct their knits completely on the serger, but I'm not quite to that comfort level yet. Okay, we have sewn our shoulder seams. That means we have a neckline. So you sewed this side and you sewed this side. Let's turn it right side out. The sides aren't sewn up yet, that's okay. We're seeing that it's starting to take the shape of a top. Now we're gonna finish that neckline. What the heck happened there? My stay stitching looks incredibly bad. We're going to use purchased woven non-stretch bias tape, bias binding, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to reach into my vintage supply because I think there's one that's going to match really well. This is a 25-cent pack of Wright's bias tape. And I believe you want single fold, which is a misnomer because it has 2 folds in it. But I'll show it to you. It's a 1/2 inch wide, okay? And here's what it looks like. If I can get this old cellophane off of here. Yeah. Okay, so here is the bias binding, and you can see that it's got 2 folds. So why do they call it single fold? I don't know. Can you see those little folds? Anyway, I won't pry them apart. What we're going to do is attach this bias binding to our neckline, and it finishes it beautifully, and it's not hard to do at all. So I'll take you through that. Let's switch to the ironing board, okay? Hang on. On the side of your bias tape with the little folds, now don't cut anything off the card. Leave it attached to the card. You want to open up one side of that bias tape, and you want to iron that one side open as you simultaneously curve the bias tape. I don't think my iron has heated up much. So once again, we're going to open one side of that, and we're going to iron only one side open and curve it as we go, okay? You can give it a little shot of steam. I think I need to put more water in my iron. All right, so open up one side and iron it open and kind of curve your bias tape around. And do a fair amount of it, because these necklines are always just a little bit bigger than you might think. So once you have what you think is a fair amount, we want to use our materials liberally. That's what they're there for. I keep it attached just in case I'm going to need a whole bunch more. That usually doesn't happen, but it's just kind of a good practice to get into. Now, one of my little edges I ironed open. We only want one side ironed open so that it looks like that. Okay? Now you're going to take your garment right side out. You want to be working on the right side. So there's your seam line, and you can tell that this is the right side of your garment. And you're going to take that bias tape that you have ironed open and start at a place on your garment like the shoulder seam. And what you're going to do, Simplicity wants you to take up a 3/8 inch seam line, okay? So you want that little crease on your bias binding to be right at that 3/8 inch seam line. So start it over here at a shoulder seam. Make sure you have plenty of pins nearby. And line it up so that that little fold is going to be about 3/8 inches from the edge. And put a pin in there, just like that, to hold it. You're not stretching this as you go. You can't really, because you put stay stitching in it. So we're just going to go around, and about every 3 inches or so, we'll place a pin to hold our bias tape in place. Okay, and so you're just going to go around that neck edge and sort of eyeball that 3/8 inch seam line and pin it. And I'll just do this in real time with you so that you can see this goes very quickly. Of course, there's no rush in sewing unless you're working under some kind of crazy deadline, but take your time and get it the way you want it. Now we're on to the back side or the front side. These sides are identical, as you know. So I'm just kind of making sure that that little crease is 3/8 of an inch from the edge and pinning it. I don't know what in God's name happened to my stay stitching. Look at that. It's just ragged. Okay, we're almost back to the beginning. I'm not pulling anything. I'm not pulling the bias binding, and I'm not pulling the fabric. I'm just making sure that it will be nice and smooth when I go to attach it. When you get back to where you started from, as you can see here, cut off some extra. And by extra, I mean give yourself a little bit of leeway here just in case you need it. Now we're going to take it to the machine and sew it onto our garment. All right, now we're going to attach it. Lift up that little flap that you left and position where you stopped right there. It's going to be under that flap, so cut off your excess. This will be intuitive when you're doing it, so don't worry. Now, I took off my free arm so that I would just have a little better access to this seam, and I am going to sew it 3/8 inch from the edge. Now, my machine does not mark that. I've got 5/8 inch marking, and that's it. So then I go 4, 3, 5/8, 4/8, which is a half, and then one more in is 3. And so now we're going to go. We don't even have to backstitch because we're going to go over it again as we get around there. So I sew over these pins because I am not going very fast. Okay, now the fact that you sort of curved your bias binding while you were ironing this one edge out really helps you because it's just going to sort of hug the edge and make it a lot easier for you to attach. So once again, we're not pulling anything. We are just putting on our bias tape easily, about 3/8 inch. We're stitching 3/8 inch from the raw edge in the crease of the bias tape. And now we're coming right back around to where we started. You can remove that last pin, and there's where we started sewing. So I'm just going to fold that little extra that I left over like that, out like that, and I will go in, meet up with my previous stitching, give it a back stitch or two, and cut. Let's go ahead and trim our seam. I love to use pinking shears, you know these kind, to trim a seam at the neckline. So it's kind of like clipping and trimming at the same time when you use pinking shears. It doesn't matter what you use, you just want to trim that seam down a little bit so that you're not encasing, you don't have a lot to encase in the turn. Good heavens. This is a strange angle. Okay, so just go around your neckline and trim off that seam. Once you've trimmed your seam, I don't even worry too much about clipping, and I do not understitch for this method. You need a pressing ham. It is going to aid you quite a bit. So, you've trimmed your seam. Now you want to turn your garment wrong side out, okay? Turn your garment wrong side out and sort of drape your neckline over the ham. And you're going to reach under and turn that bias binding to the inside of your garment. When you do that, make sure, let me get my pointer. So you don't have to look at my hideous fingernails. When you turn that, make sure that there is just a little line of your fabric that shows on the fold. You want that there because that is going to ensure that this bias binding does not show on the outside. You're going to turn it and press it right on that bias tape, okay? And insert a pin to hold it in place. Okay, so now we'll move along the neckline and we will turn. There's some of my stay stitching. Let me clip that off. Turn, press, pin. And you can put the pins in lengthwise because you will remove them then as you sew. We're going to go around again. And this is a circular, of course, neckline. So that's why the pressing ham helps a lot. Is there another name for it besides ham? Okay. And pin. Move your garment along. Turn that edge over with a little bit of that fabric right on the edge. And press right on the tape. Okay. Pin. The reason that this non-stretch binding will work on a knit neckline like this is because we don't have to stretch this neckline to get in and out of our garment. Obviously, if we had to do that, we could not use a stable binding. But I really love to use a stable binding to finish knit necklines because they offer stability. The neckline is not going to get all stretched out. Okay, once again, I'll show you how I'm folding it and pinning it. And then we're right around back to where we began. So give that one final press right on the tape. We had no need to do understitching because once this is stitched down, it's not going to roll out at all. Okay, now it's pinned on the inside and I'm going to go back to my machine and stitch it down. Okay, I'm still on the wrong side at a shoulder seam. That's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to remove my pin, place my garment under the needle, and I'm going to stitch. The benefit of doing it this way is that you can make sure that you are enclosing that little fold into your stitching. This will serve as top stitching on the right side of your fabric. I like to do a longer stitch length at about 4. That's just personal preference. Okay, so now we're gonna go around. You can take your time on this. You have to remove the pins because you can't sew over them. So I like that aspect of it. And then you just want to sew nice and equidistant from the edge. Use your fingers to guide it. And rearrange your garment as you go so everything is nice and smooth. Now we're coming up on the other shoulder seam. And as you get good at this, you'll be amazed at how quickly you can do these little necklines. I just really love them. If you don't like purchase bindings, by all means, go ahead and make your own. I have, believe it or not, begun making my own, although rarely. So here we go. We're just about back at the beginning. And I'm just gonna keep at it so you can see. I can't see anything, but you can hear it. Okay, round we go. And here we are. We are back at the beginning. So we will meet up with our stitching. My machine gets a little bogged at these seam junctions, and I will take a couple back stitches. And there is our neckline attached. I'll take it back to the ironing board and I will iron it on the right side just to set everything, and then it's done. When I'm back at the ironing board, I'm going to put the garment right side out again. I don't need my ham because I like to press the neckline flat. But I do need a pressing cloth because now I'm on the right side of my fabric and I don't want to scorch anything. I will just give my neckline a press, a little bit of steam, not too much. And that actually sets those stitches. I can clip off any little extra threads. Always want to do that. And my neckline is finished. It's just such a nice, neat finish, and we can move on. All right, it's time to turn the garment wrong side out, because we're now going to sew up the sides, curving into the sleeve. I like to start from the bottom, doesn't matter. Definitely matters that you match up those notches. There's my notch. And I like to put a pin there to keep it in place. And we will sew from the bottom of our hem all the way around to the bottom of our sleeve on each side. So check this out. My top goes pretty well with my home deck pants. This is a McCall's pattern. I'll put the number up on the screen, but you know, that's the benefit of a solid top. Now, I didn't hem it, and I didn't hem the sleeves. Don't forget that knits don't ravel. You don't have to hem the sleeves or the bottom. You could add an embellishment. You could add trim to the bottom. I'm thinking I might add like a little chest pocket up here. I think that would be a great addition. It's kind of plain, it's kind of boho, and it may not be your cup of tea, but you can make this little top in any fabric you desire. Hey, before I go, I'll show you my sewing room because a couple people have said, where are you putting all that fabric? Hang on. Well, when I first shot my sewing studio video way back when, I did have 4 fabric towers at that time. I didn't have this guy over here filled with fabric, and I did not have this over here filled with fabric. These are from IKEA. They're wonderful. They hold a lot, and it's kind of nice that half of the doors are opaque. And then these little ottomans here, storage cubes, they open up, and there's plenty of fabric in those. And then I have a basket over here with some brand new fabric. I'll have to show you guys that. Here in our dining room hutch, there's our mugs. Yeah, that kind of turned into fabric storage. And then there's some upstairs and some downstairs. Seasonal stuff. So I found the pants. My home deck pants are McCall's 6930. And once again, our little quick top today was Simplicity 8656. If you want me to show you how I made my skirt, where is that? Oh, I don't have that, but I can do that. For now, I'm going to go buy a Christmas tree and try to get into the Christmas spirit. I don't know. I'm not doing too well with that Christmas spirit thing. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you might want to make something easy. Easy does not equate to less than. Easy means that you have something that you made by hand to wear quickly. Wear it in great health and keep sewing. Bye.